This is When the Fuck Did I Become Old? The fun, edgy, and unapologetically honest podcast about the experiences of aging, where, as the title suggests, nothing is off the table. And I'm your host, Jo Parker. And today I'm joined by Dawn Marcotte, all the way from Minnesota in the States. She's got up early to come on the show. And Dawn is a retirement coach. Welcome to the show, Dawn.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Jo. I'm excited to be here.
I'm really excited to talk to you because back in August, on August the 1st, we had an episode with somebody who was 64 at the time, a chap called David Pugsley, who had got himself a retirement coach. So it's always on my remit to get a retirement coach to talk about your side and what you do. So
right. Well, here I am.
Yeah, absolutely. So go explain to us what a retirement coach does, what you do, and how we might need one when we come to retirement.
Oh, great. Thank you. I'm so excited. So a retirement coach focuses on the non-financial side of retirement. Of course, there's a whole industry around helping you make sure that you save up enough money so that when you retire, you have enough to live on, right? And that's great. That is important. But what nobody talks about is the massive changes in emotions, socially, your routine, all of those soft skills, soft things. Nobody talks about how much that's going to change when you retire. And so what happens is people retire and the first 6 months is fabulous. It's that never-ending vacation that everybody's promised. And it's wonderful, that sense of freedom, because you don't have to go to work. You don't have to answer those emails. You don't have to go to that meeting that should have been an email. Things like that, right? Whatever you don't like about your job, it's fantastic. But then there's kind of this sense of, well, now what? Well, there's no purpose anymore. And nobody tells you that so that you can prepare for it. So what a retirement coach like myself does, depending on where you are, if you happen to hire me before you retire, which is optimal, I can help you prepare for that. So I can help you make sure all of your friends aren't at work. You have other friends so that when you leave, and those interactions will kind of dwindle naturally, that's just the way it works, you have others to replace it. Or that you have identified some things that you're interested in pursuing. So you can enjoy that first 6 months or a year, but then when it's done, you're like, okay, now it's time for me to start thinking about, whatever this thing is. I'm going to run a marathon in all 50 states. Okay, how do I do that? Whatever it is that you've identified that you're going to want to explore. So that's what happens. What actually happens most of the time.
Completely different. Okay.
Completely different. What actually happens most of the time is people get past that 6 months or a year. They start feeling anxious, sometimes depressed, just that, oh my gosh, where have I gone wrong? Society says I should be enjoying the time of my life and I am bored out of my mind. What do I do? And that's when they start looking for help and will come to me and say, what do I do? Where did I go wrong? Well, you didn't go wrong anywhere. It's just that nobody told you need to prepare for these different aspects and changes, and I can help you figure that out. Because it is different for everyone. My perfect retirement is not going to look like your perfect retirement, is not going to look like your friend's perfect retirement, right? We're all different people. So figuring it out as to what's right for us is really important, rather than listening to what the culture says we're supposed to want or do.
So there must be some key elements, like, for example, like you said, finding something to do or something to aim for, changing your social life so it's not all your friends are at work, where you've worked, at work or where you've worked. So those are key elements as well. And routine. I mean, because every
routine
day
is important.
Every day is a Saturday or a Sunday, isn't it? And then that becomes a bit lethargy sets in, doesn't it? Yeah.
You get bored. I mean, I'm old enough that when I was a kid, summer vacation meant I just went and did my thing for the whole summer, right? No daycare, no whatever. I was at home playing with the neighborhood kids. This is how old I am, right? And at the beginning of the summer, it was fabulous, right? It was so exciting because we didn't have to go to school, blah, 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 right? But I don't know about you. By the end of the summer, I was bored. I was done. I was ready to go back to school. Same thing with retirement. The problem is your job doesn't start up again 3 months later. So you have to figure it out for yourself, what works for you. And then the other thing that I found for a lot of people is they kind of have general ideas of what they might want to do. We want to travel more. We want to spend more time with family, things like that. And that's great. But that does not address the day to day. To your point, the routine. I'm going to get up at 7 and I'm going to have my morning cup and then I'm going to go work out. And then I'm going to, oh, wait, working out only takes an hour. What do I do with the rest of my morning? So there's not that understanding of how much time the things that you are planning to do will take and how much time you still have to fill.
Yeah, there is my experience of people who think who think when they retire, they're going to do DIY.
Mhm.
It's going to paint the
How
house.
awful.
It's a bit like, we've got a bridge over here that goes from England to Wales, which is called the Severn Bridge. And you literally, or was it the fourth bridge in England to Scotland? But it is like painting one of those bridges. You get to the other end, you start again. You paint your house repeatedly, and you could do that for the rest of your life. But I have a colleague who he does the financial stuff, and he was talking to one of his clients said to him, "Am I okay? Can I retire?" And he said, "Absolutely, you are financially settled." And then about 3 months later, I think it was only about 3 months later, he sent him a photograph of he was doing model aeroplanes, and he said, "I think it's time for me to do something else," because all he was doing was making model aeroplanes. And
Right?
my friend Chris said, "Yes, I think you need to do something else."
Mhm,
So,
mhm. Yeah.
it's
Well,
typically, is it about 6 months after you finish work that you decide actually there's more to life than just having a coffee?
that's the average. Some people, for example, my mother, she was a teacher. And so she had summers off. So she kind of had practice, right? In filling that time and finding purpose outside of her work. So when she retired, she never really got to that point of being bored because she was prepared. She already had charities that she was involved in. She already had friends at church and things like that. So, but for those that are not prepared in that regard, most of the time it's about 6 months, maybe a year, depending on, so some people who have really stressful jobs, it takes them longer to unwind and longer to enjoy and longer before they get bored. But yeah, it's 6 months to a year. And then on average, if you don't hire a coach, you just try to figure it out on your own, it takes about 2 years to figure it out and get to the point where you're comfortable and you're happy with what you're doing in your retirement. And so what I say or what I tell people is there's basically 4 stages to retirement. There's that first honeymoon stage that we're all familiar with. The second stage is kind of the lost stage, which is what I've been talking about. The third stage is the exploration stage, and that's where most people find their happiness and their satisfaction. But then there's a fourth stage that not everybody gets to, and it's part of my goal is to help my clients get to that fourth stage, and that's reinvention. And what that means is you just what it says, you have completely reinvented who you are outside of your former career. And with that comes additional resiliency, able to handle the changes that naturally come. Life happens, continues to happen no matter what our age. It also means for most people that they are giving back to their community in some way that resonates with them. And I'm not talking about endless volunteering, just some way, something they're passionate about. Maybe they're helping others experience that. So if, for example, you have a sport that you enjoy, I have a brother who rides bikes that he loves that. And so he mentors people new to that sport. That's how he gives back. He is not someone that will ever volunteer and go to a soup kitchen every week or whatever. That's just not, he's fairly quiet. He just would not enjoy doing that. That doesn't speak to him. But helping people who are new to this particular sport, he loves it. And he has done this for, I don't know, 20 years he's been doing this and he loves it, that kind of giving back. So once you reach that fourth stage, that really is just such a big difference. And people are so much happier there. And that's what I'm trying to help people reach.
Fabulous. I would imagine, though, there are people that don't ever reach, you said there are people that don't ever reach that stage. So they just
Yeah,
sort of
a lot of
sink
people
into
don't.
depression or
No,
nothingness.
no, they spend the rest of their time in that third exploration phase. But what that means is that, let me give you an example. So a lot of people, particularly women, when we retire, we have grandkids, we're like, oh, we'll help the kids out. We'll take care of the grandkids a couple of days a week, right? Because we love them. We want to spend time with them, whatever, right? Great. That's fantastic. And you enjoy it. But those kids are going to grow up. And at a certain point, they're not going to need you to take care of them anymore. So then you're back to, okay, well, what do I do now? And you find something else that gives you meaning. And so you kind of go from one thing to another, but it's not always planned. There's a certain amount of fumbling around and figuring it out every time you have to change. Whereas once you're in the reinvention phase, you have a plan and you have a list of, okay, when I'm done with the kids, that I'm going to take time and we're going to take a sail around the world on this cruise ship that does this every year. And then when we're done with that, we're going to do this. And then when we're done with that, right? So there's a plan. So there's not that fumbling around trying to figure it out. And if you try something that doesn't work, because let's face it, not everything's going to work. You're going to try something and go, yeah, no, this is not fun like I thought it would be. That's okay. Because then you're okay. You know what? I tried this glass class, and boy, that requires an awful lot of attention to detail. I'm just not good at that. I don't think I'm going to do that anymore. I'm going to go try pottery now, right? So there's not that wavering of, okay, shoot, what do I do now? You've got a plan. And that's really important and really helpful and not that hard to do when you know you need to do it. It's just that nobody knows they need to do that.
No, it's more and more obvious now that we need to do it because as we are getting older. So we in the UK we now our retirement age at the moment is 67. It could be 69 or 70 soon because we're just running out of money to fund ourselves. But we know that there's going to be a good 15 to 20 years between retirement and death. And previously, there was only a few years. People were literally not prepared for it, and therefore got more and more depressed and isolated, and they stopped working. So the guy who did the episode back in August, on August the 1st, he was really he hadn't realised that he was worried about retirement because he had been in the Navy. And the Navy statistics were, if you retire, and I can't remember exactly, but if you retire, there's a short period of time when the average person dies after the retirement. So he thought he was literally going to walk out of the building on his day of his retirement and die because the statistics. So he had to work very deeply on his fear of retirement.
Yes. And it is terrifying because those statistics are true, particularly for those that were in the military or were in some sort of very regimented routine type of situation. When you completely remove that routine and don't replace it with something else, that is a huge blow psychologically. And it can cause depression. And then when you're depressed, your whole body kind of shuts down, and it's very true, and people are not prepared for that. But it's also true for people who aren't in that type of situation. I've read a number of books as part of trying to become a retirement coach. Of course, there's lots of training and things that go into it. And so I was reading a lot of different books that people had written, and there is one gentleman who wrote a book to help people with this, specifically because his mother actually ended up committing suicide after she retired because she was so depressed. Because there's this mental idea that whatever our life is right now, this is what it's always going to be. We don't realize that it's going to continue to change. So good or bad, whatever your life is right now, that's not what it's going to be in a year. Change will happen. But we still have that mental that this is where I'm going to be, this is all there is. And that can lead to depression, anxiety, eventually suicide if people don't step in and help you out. So that's the other reason that I wanted to start doing this, because the number of people retiring and reaching that age in the United States, there's a generation called the baby boomers.
Which we have that too. Yeah,
you have that too, yeah. Right? So most of them are now retired, and then there's the next generation that comes after that. It's just huge numbers of people hitting this milestone.
Yeah.
and not prepared for it. So including, for example, my husband's going to be retiring in a couple of years.
Is he?
And I looked at him and went, no, you need help, honey.
But no, it's not going to be you, I take it. You're giving him to
It's not
someone
going to
else.
be me. No, he doesn't listen to me. I'm just the wife. But he's a wonderful man, but he's very extroverted and he loves people, which is great.
Yep.
I'm an introvert.
Yeah, so I saw that. I mean, I saw that on your you put it as part of your LinkedIn profile, coach, author, introvert.
Yep. I enjoy people on an individual basis or in small groups, but I will be drained. After we're done with this podcast, I will go have a nice cup of my morning cup and whatever, relax. But during the pandemic, I still remember, because it was just us and our 2 kids in the house for however long, there were days where I'd look at him and say, just stop talking, honey. Just stop. I'm done. Just stop talking. Right. So, which made me realize that when he retires,
you need him to do something. I need him to do something.
I need him to get out of the house.
Yep.
And go talk to people who are not me, because I cannot be his only social interaction.
Yeah.
And that is unfortunately true for many, many men, is that all of their social interactions are at work. They just don't, by the time they retire, they just don't have friends outside of work anymore. So it's this big shock. Because if you're somebody who's ever gone from one place of work to another place of work, and you try to remain friends with people at the first place, if the only thing you have in common is the job, when you're done gossiping about it, there's nothing left, right? So they dwindle, and it's a natural thing to happen. But when you retire, it still happens. So you need to replace that with other things. And again, particularly men tend to fall prey to that, and they struggle with it a little bit. So that's one of the things that I like to help people with.
My co-host is my partner as well. And he knows that he'll be retiring soon. He's not sure exactly the date, but he's approaching the time when he'll be retiring. And he knows that he will suddenly, finish on Friday, and then on Monday, he's no one.
Right.
He's no one.
Right.
He's not. He's no longer important. Nobody asks him for their opinion. He knows that, and he also knows that could lead to him becoming, a little bit low on it,
sure,
and a bit depressed. So he is looking into possibility of learning how to be a snowboard coach. He snowboards. So he's thinking, right, so in the winter months when it's really depressing, because it's, we all suffer from the SOD, sad.
Sure.
I'm going to go and I'm going to learn, I think it's 10 to 12 weeks. I'm going to go learn how to be a snowboard instructor. Doesn't want to teach anybody. He really doesn't want to teach anybody, but just thinks that transition, making a transition from being somebody big at work to being nobody and doing nothing, or to being nobody and studying and being, he is a good boarder. His only challenge on that one is that he knows that he'll be with a bunch of 20-year-olds, and he might not be able to tolerate that for that long. So
right. But he might be surprised that he enjoys it more than he realizes.
Well, he could be the wise old man, couldn't he?
He could be the wise old man. And that's the thing. That is actually a really great plan, because having something to look forward to, something to do, that intellectual stimulation, because that's the other thing that people don't realize they need to replace, is the day-to-day intellectual stimulation. And even if the only thing you're doing at work is prioritizing things every day and figuring out what needs to do first, that's still intellectual stimulation. And if you don't replace that, you're going to get bored. I would also encourage him to enjoy not having to get up and all of those, things that he doesn't enjoy doing. But that's really fantastic to start thinking about that. Because the other thing, and this is just an exercise that I do with my clients, is I have them sit down and start brainstorming about things that they're just curious about. Don't think about how you will execute on it or if you're going to be good at it. Just things you're curious about learning about, and start making a list and keep adding to that list over time as you see something on TV or whatever. And then when you have a moment where you're like, what do I do now? Oh, you know what? I have this list. Let me look on that list. Is there something that I can do right now? Is there a class I can take? Is there, an organization I can join? And the other thing that I encourage, and this is particularly true, well, sexist, particularly true for men, is if you have been in a particular industry for a number of years, is there an organization associated with that industry that you can join? Because yes, you may be retiring, but you are still very knowledgeable about that industry and you can mentor people, right? In that industry or as an executive, there are all kinds of skills that you have, soft skills, just as an executive, a leader that you can share with other people. So to your point about, well, nobody's been going to be calling and asking me, I'm not the expert anymore. I'm retired. The culture tells me I'm useless now. Well, you're not.
Well, that's
You
it. No,
have
the
the
culture does tell you you're useless, and it also
yes.
renders you invisible. So
Yes. Yes, it does.
if you're not actively, here I am, here I am, here I am, I'm visible, I'm
Mhm.
useful, this is what I can do, no one's going to come and get you.
No one
Yes,
is going to come
the
get you.
association idea is a brilliant one. Have you got any examples
Mhm.
of anybody that's done that
I
off the top of your head?
I'm trying to
Sorry.
think. No. Well, I do have, I'm trying to remember the organization that they joined, but there was someone that was a bookkeeper, right? So an accountant, basically. And I don't remember the organization that they joined, but that's what they did is they went and joined, actually they joined two organizations. There's one here in the States that focuses on helping students, middle school students, understand financial literacy, and so they went and joined that so they could mentor and help in that regard. But they also joined, and I don't remember what it was for their professional organization. And it turned out that they actually slowly turned to focus more on the kids, the middle school kids, because it is a very robust program that actually takes an entire school year of people coming in and helping. So anyway, but yeah, that's what they did. They took their skills that they had and they found someplace that they could use it that they enjoyed. And yeah, it really can open up whole new opportunities. The other thing that I have recommended to people, and this is actually something I'm trying to do myself, is to become a is to become a speaker. There are tons of, the Rotary Club, the Lions Club, there's all kinds of organizations that are always, they meet regularly. They like to have people come in and educate their members. They're always looking for speakers. So if you have expertise in an area, you can proactively go out and start looking for these organizations and share that information, share that knowledge with others, and they would love to have you. Now, of course, public speaking is not always something that people
but
are interested in
do you have
doing.
Toastmaster courses over there? Because we
We
have,
do.
yeah.
We
So
do.
I've recommended one
Yeah.
of my girlfriends goes and does that because she wants to do more public speaking. So I go and
Mhm.
do a course and learn how to public speak, but then
Yes.
go into smaller,
Smaller
where
venues.
they're not expecting, Anthony Robbins to stand up and entertain you for 4 days. But yeah,
Exactly. Exactly. Start small. And the thing that I have discovered, because I will be honest, I was completely shocked. I actually started speaking to market my most recent book because social media exhausts me. So I'm like, okay, let's try something different this time. And the first time I went in and spoke and I got a laugh at a point where I was hoping I would get a laugh, right? And I was like, oh my gosh, they thought it was funny. Oh my gosh. And I was hooked at that point. I was like, this is actually nice. But there were only, I think there were 10 people in the room, right? It wasn't huge to your point. But I'm like, well, this is not so bad. So then I just kind of kept going with it. And I have been surprised that I have actually enjoyed it and am continuing to pursue it. So, sometimes stepping outside what you think is your limits and trying something new can bring immense rewards that you aren't expecting. And that's the other thing that people, when they are retired, again, the culture says, be small, be small, be small. And you have to make a conscious effort to fight against that. Yes. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
talking of Anthony Robbins, he lives by there are 6 basic human needs, and I think these tie so well into retirement. I might actually do an episode on them. The 6 basic human needs, which are the emotional needs of certainty. We know what certainty means. Uncertainty, which he classifies as variety, is also really important. Connection, which he classifies as love, and significance, all of which are really important, and all of which
Yes.
you could lose when you retire. The other things are the spiritual needs, which he contribution, which you've talked about, and growth, which you've also talked about, which is important, i.e. keep yourself educated and learn new things, all of which, if you don't have them, if a baby doesn't have all of those needs, it's not met, it's not seen, it doesn't feel certain, it doesn't feel loved, doesn't feel significant, they kind of like withdraw. And the same would be for anybody.
Yes, at any age. In fact, there are tons of studies out there that show that the number one indicator of happiness is the quality of your relationships. It doesn't matter your age, your gender, where you live, what you do, none of that matters. The quality of your relationships, not quantity. I have 4 friends and I'm quite happy. Thank you very much.
No, quality. Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
I get that.
It's quantity. And that's going to be different for everybody. So, for example, I have a daughter who's adultish. She's in her 20s, but she's on the autism spectrum. I know, right? She's on the autism spectrum. So her friendships look absolutely nothing like what I would expect a friendship to be. Hers are almost exclusively online. But she's okay with that. And they interact regularly and she's happy with that. And it took me years to wrap my head around that as a parent, because I kept thinking, no, honey. When she was in middle school, her special ed teacher looked me in the face and said, your daughter has the social skills she needs to survive in the world. She chooses not to use them. Oh, okay.
Now, but out.
Okay. Right? I'm like, okay, so she's happy. She has the skills. I mean, she's fully employed, blah, blah, blah. Anyway.
But you're back to the fact that
but it looks different for her than it does for me. And mine look different for me than they do for my dad, who's the most extroverted person you will ever meet in your life. And he just stops people randomly and starts chatting with them, right? When he's going to the store or whatever. And that makes him happy. I could I'm like, what are you doing? Why are you talking to them? Do you know
Dad.
them? What are we doing here? I don't understand. Right? So it's kind of fun that way. But yeah, it's really important to establish those relationships, again, outside of work. And a good way to do that is joining organizations, doing things you enjoy doing and finding other people that enjoy doing them so you can do them together. Things like that. Those are kind of some of the tips that I routinely give people. But yeah, that relationship is core to and it really can lead to everything else. If you're establishing relationships, you're going to feel seen and you're going to feel heard and you're probably going to find a purpose. And it's so central to everything. That's one of those things that I just am constantly telling people. If you don't do anything else, figure out your social network
go
and
make a
sure
friend.
that it is, make a friend. Go make a friend.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
Yep.
And so swinging back, you mentioned you've been going out and doing speak talks about your book. So before we end this podcast, tell us about your book.
Well, so I'm only one person. There are only 24 hours in a day. I can't coach everyone and help everyone. And I also am a writer. I love putting words together to create books. So I wrote, it came out in May of 2025. It's called Filling the Blank Page: How to Build a Retirement of Passion and Purpose. It's my most recent book. I have many others on a variety of other topics. That's just been something I do for years. Was I run into an issue or something in my own life, I do the research, I write the book, I publish the book, and then I market the book. So this is the most recent one. And it really walks you through, or walks the readers through, what do you need to do to prepare for retirement? Okay, I know I need to find friends. How do I do that? Okay, here's a 3-step process, and I just lay it out for you. So it's basically all of the things that I share in my coaching when I talk to people, but it's in a book format. Because again, I'm only one person. I can't coach the whole world, and I want to try and reach as many people as I possibly can. It does feel a little bit like swimming upstream, I'll be honest, because when you say the word retirement, if you Google the word retirement, the first 10 pages are all about the finance side. Nobody talks about the other side. So that's the other reason I'm trying to speak in person and come on podcasts and things, is to get the word out, is that there is help out there for the non-financial side. Don't give up. Buy my book, buy somebody's books.
I'll put the book in the link. So put the link below so that everybody can buy it. There's also something else you do. You have a website, which is called Inspired Retirement Life.
I do. Well, actually, I just launched a new website in January.
Oh, wow.
And it's actually my name. It's dawnmarcotte.com, because that was easier I thought easier for people to find. But anyway, so yes, I have and there's information there. You can contact me there if you're interested in learning more about what I do. I will say this, I am part of an organization of retirement coaches. So I'm guessing that, people in England probably aren't going to want to hire me as a coach, but I bet I could find someone local for you. So if you are interested in that, please feel free to reach out to me, and I will do my best to help you find someone that is a little more local to you.
Thank you.
And maybe a little bit, a little bit better. Sorry.
So you've spoken at great length and it's been amazing. Is there anything you have missed out or I haven't asked you that is you want to tell us about retirement that we need to think about or review?
I don't think so. I think I've pretty much covered everybody, but I really appreciate you having me on. I'm so excited. I love your podcast, and I love the title, by the way.
Brilliant,
I can't tell you how many times I have thought that exact phrase in my head.
It's
like, what happened? But okay. Yeah. So anyway, thank you so much.
No, thank you so much for joining us, Dawn. I'll put the link to your book, the link to your new website in the bio, and if anybody has any questions for Dawn, please just put them through the comments and we'll get them over to you and get them answered. But Dawn, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.